Hi, third graders. It's Miss Petersen. Today, for our lesson, we are going to talk about civil rights. Now, maybe some of you have heard of this topic before, maybe some of you haven't. Either way, it's totally fine too. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about this worksheet right here, which you guys have on your team's assignment. I'm going to read a little bit about civil rights, and then hopefully you guys will have a better understanding. So to start with, what are civil rights? There's a couple of important things to notice here on this side of the page. There's some people that are holding signs. One says freedom and one says equal rights. Now, every person who lives in the United States has rights as a person, but also as a United States citizen. So we are going to talk about what some of those rights are, talk about how they came to be, and what we learned from them. So civil rights are the rights of individual to receive equal treatment. That means the civil rights make sure that everyone who lives in the United States make sure that they are all treated the same way. This also includes the right to be free from unfair treatment or discrimination in a number of settings. Discrimination, that's a pretty big word. It's a word that means if someone is treated unfairly for a certain reason. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about civil rights and why some people were treated unfairly. These include education, employment. Now, employment means that you have a job, housing, so where you live, and more. In the United States, the civil rights of each individual citizen are protected by the Constitution. Civil rights include the right to free speech. That means you can say what you want. Privacy, religion, assembly. That means you can gather in a group however many you want. A fair trial. This is if you were to go to court against something. And freedom of thought. So here in the United States, you have the right to free speech, privacy, religion, assembly, a fair trial, and freedom of thought. The term civil rights comes from the Latin term "I civis." Now, you know how we have lots of different Latin words that we learn a lot from. So here's another one. It means the rights of a citizen. So each one of you guys are citizens because you guys live here. Anyone who is considered a citizen of a country should be treated equally under the law. Most laws that protect civil rights originate at the federal level. Through federal legislation is, that means, federal means country, so like in the whole country. And legislation is where they make rules and laws, or through federal court decisions, like those handed down by the United States Supreme Court. States also pass their own civil rights laws that are usually similar to those at the federal level. Some cities and counties even have their own ordinances and laws related to civil rights. This also means that state by state, there's different laws. Did you know, here's a fun fact, that in the laws in Arizona, it says that if someone knocks on your door and they ask you for a glass of water, it's the law that you can't tell them no. That was one of the most interesting ones that I found. There's lots of different fun laws, or maybe not fun, but interesting laws per state. I know that each state has their own, but they also share a lot of the same ones. So let's continue here. It says, throughout history, there may have been different civil rights movements. Each of these fought for the rights of a given section of the population who is experiencing discrimination. So, this passage tells us a lot about civil rights. It tells us that if you live in the country, then you have all of these rights. So, what we are going to do today is we're going to go over these right here. We're going to go back to the passage, which is a very important skill, and find the answers for each and every one of these. Let me go ahead and just plug in my mouse right now so that we can find it easily. Hopefully I can highlight for it. You guys, perfect. Here was the mouse. So what are civil rights? Now, instead of just writing what you remember it to be, you can go back to the passage. So I'm going to look for civil rights. And here it says civil rights are the rights of individuals to receive equal treatment. So the answer for this one would be civil rights are the rights of individuals to receive equal treatment. And notice how I put the question in my answer. What do civil rights protect people from? Let's go ahead and continue to read. It protects people from, this also includes the right to be free from unfair treatment or discrimination in a number of settings. These include education, employment, housing, and more. In the United States, the civil rights of each individual citizen are protected by the Constitution. So it doesn't give us directly what it protects people from, but here it says this also includes the right to free from unfair treatment. So to me, I think number 2 would be civil rights protect people from unfair treatment. I think that's the best answer for number 2. What protects people's civil rights in the United States? Let's go ahead and look up here. Sorry, the mouse is being kind of funny. So it says, I continue here, in the United States, the civil rights of each individual student are protected by the Constitution. What protects people's civil rights in the United States? Just read it here. The Constitution. So you could write the people's civil rights are protected by the Constitution. Name 2 civil rights in the United States. So if we wanted to name a few, we could name that everyone has the right to free speech, privacy, religion, assembly. So if I were to pick 2, maybe I will do right to free speech and a right to religion. I would put that for number 4. Number 5, what does ius civis mean? So let's go up and find the answer here. This means, it says, we find it here back in the text, meaning rights of a citizen. So you would write ius civis means rights of a citizen. See how easy it is when I go back and I read through each question? Who should be considered equal under the law according to the selection? Now, this is kind of a difficult question, but I know you can do it. Who should be considered? So who would be included under the law? So who would be included this? It says here, anyone who is considered a citizen of a country should be treated equally under the law. So for number 6, I think the answer would be anyone who is considered a citizen of the country. So let's go ahead and look at number 7. Where are the laws that protect civil rights usually created? So this doesn't just mean what city or anything like that. I think this means how are they created, not just where. So it says here, most laws that protect civil rights originate at the federal level through federal legislation or through federal court decisions, like those handed down by the United States Supreme Court. States also pass their own civil rights laws that are usually similar to those at the federal level. Some cities and counties even have their own ordinances related to civil rights. So I would say, for number 7, where are the laws that protect civil rights usually created? I would answer through federal legislation, right here. Through federal legislation. Throughout history, there have been many different civil rights movements. Each of these fought for the rights of given section of the population who was experiencing discrimination. Now remember, discrimination means people who were treated unfairly. So for number 8, what is the purpose of the civil rights movement? The purpose of a civil rights movement is to fight for the rights of a given section of the population who is experiencing discrimination. So that's the answer for number 8. Now, we are going to learn about lots of different important people in civil rights. For example, Martin Luther King Jr., he was a very important person in the civil rights movement. So that is an important person throughout history, but also in the civil rights movement. So you can choose now to either write in the answers on your own and keep these notes important, or you could just have chosen to listen carefully to me reading it out loud. But no matter what, this is a very important topic. Hope you guys are having a great Monday, and I will see you guys soon. Bye, 3rd grade.